Hello and welcome to Ikike Digest on Home FTV. I am Kome Ojomo. On Ikike Digest, we aim to highlight environmental issues affecting communities and our food system. We also highlight policy gap that do not meet the people's needs and provide our listeners with adequate environmental information. In today's edition, we will be highlighting the blue economic concept. The blue economic concept is purported to be a term for ocean governance in many different spaces. It is perceived as a sustainable support for ocean economy, which improves livelihoods and cover a wide range of economic activities within the ocean. However, environmental experts have queried the concept for what it is, such as increasing commercialization of water body and loss of cultural heritage and traditional livelihoods, amongst others. The Nigerian government announced the creation of the new ministry in August 2023 to harness the vast economic opportunities. But how true is that fact that the ministry will harness these opportunities? And we have in the studio today Dr. Nnimmo Bassey, who will critically expose the dangers of the blue economic concept. Dr. Nnimmo Bassey is the Executive Director of Health of Moderates Foundation, HOMEF. Dr. Bassey is a Nigerian architect, environmental activist, and poet. Due to his commitment to bettering the Mother Earth and its continuous push for a cleaner and safer environment, Dr. Bassey has received honorary doctorate degree from the University of York, United Kingdom in 2019 and from the York University, Canada in 2023. In 2024, he received the Raoul Wallenberg Medal from the University of Michigan. He also serves on the board of several national and international justice organizations. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
So today's conversation is about the blue economy, and we know that many Nigerians are not aware of this concept. Can you please tell us what the blue economic concept is and the different components?
The blue economy concept, of course, is a beautiful terminology. So I guess this is why the Nigerian government, for example, has decided to set up a ministry of blue economy. The concept itself is a build-up or extension of what is known as the green economy. Well, the green economy deals mostly with things that happen on land. And now it appears that after extreme exploitation of the planet, of the earth, of land-based beings, now the shift is moving to the ocean as the last frontier. Maybe not the last frontier, moving to the ocean as another zone for exploitation. So blue economy basically talks about using the ocean, coastal water bodies, and the seas as economic zones for economic activities. And this is a challenge. When you look at the ocean, principally as an economic space, as a space for exploitation, then of course a lot of things can go wrong, because that's not the way people who depend on the ocean look at the ocean. They look at the ocean as just as an economic space. It's a zone of life. It's what supports the livelihoods. 200 million Africans depend on the ocean, on fisheries, for example, for livelihood. And about 3 billion across the world, 3 billion people, human beings, depend on ocean resources for livelihoods and sustenance. And so focusing on the ocean as an area of exploitation for economic gains, for development in quotes, poses very unique challenges for the world.
So let's talk about the impacts of this large-scale ocean-based industry on the people first.
So to understand or predict the impacts, we have to look at what are the activities in the ocean, water bodies that corporations and individuals are carrying out. Overfishing is one. Fishing is normal. People have always fished from beginning of agriculture. But these days we have industrial fishing, especially illegal, unregulated and underreported fishing. That is destroying fisheries, especially in the West African coast and in other parts of the world. When fisher folks or trawlers, industrial fishers fish without caring about the sizes of the fish they are catching, about the species that they really need to catch. When there's a lot of wastage and there's a lot of elimination of the resources that people would normally need, the ocean-dependent communities would need. So that's one. The other one is seabed mining. This is a new thing that is coming up. Scientists are saying that there are ways they could mine sustainably. And of course, there's nothing like sustainable mining, even on land. When you go to deep seabed mining, we're exposing ocean to real deep-seated ecological destruction. Because when you disturb the seabed, there are certain species that may be unknown to science, unknown to humans. But going down there, sometimes maybe over 3 kilometers or more, to get to the bottom of the ocean in some places, it means you are going to wreak the kind of havoc that would affect so many other things, affect humans in many different ways. There's also the issue of using the ocean as a place for geoengineering, for climate engineering. And it requires altering the natural state of the ocean to be able to do that, sometimes by triggering the growth of algae, by using ion filings on big areas of the ocean. This could have implications for using the ocean the way it ought to be used, or the way we know it should be used in a way that is sustainable. We also have cases of people or corporations now look at the ocean for marine biotechnology. We do know what modern agricultural biotechnology is doing to agriculture in the world today. Now, when we move into the ocean for marine biotechnology, that opens a new area for challenges. And then, of course, the usual way of using the ocean, which we are used to, is by marine transportation, by ship, by ferry, carrying cargo, and so on and so forth. Of course, we use the ocean for tourism. But by the time we carry, even tourism can be damaging. Depends on the scope and depends on whether the ecosystem, aquatic ecosystem, marine ecosystem is respected in using the ocean for tourism.
So can we say this is one of the reasons the Nigerian government created the new ministry?
It's not very clear because up till this time, after a year into the present administration, we don't still have a very clarity about what exactly led to the creation of that ministry. But we are aware that a similar ministry has been created in Kenya. So Nigeria is not unique in this. But these are the two countries in Africa that we're aware of that have this. And we're thinking that this must have been suggested by entities, corporations, or individuals who want to really exploit our water bodies in a way that may not be so good for us.
So let's talk about this new ministry once again. What's the hope for fishers with the creation of this new ministry?
Well, now we have the Ministry of Blue Economy, or the ministry that looks at blue economy and pursues blue economy. Now, as I said earlier, I believe the main reason why this was created is that the government believes that the ocean and our water bodies have not been sufficiently exploited. Maybe they've not been exploited in a way that we could harness as much gains as we can from water bodies. But we do know that our water bodies have suffered extreme pollution, from oil pollution, from waste discharged to the ocean by oil companies and other industries set up on the coastline, the refineries, and so on and so forth. In fact, it's also known that about 90% of land-based waste or pollution in the Gulf of Guinea comes from the Niger Delta area, which this is not coming from poor communities who've been living there for ages. It's because of industrial activities going on. So the government focusing on blue economy, we can only guess what exactly is the major reason why this was done. If you look at it on the surface, I would say maybe they want to improve marine transportation, which some states like Lagos State has been grappling with. And it's a big shame that we cannot enter a ferry in Lagos to go to Calabar, for example, or even go to somewhere else. So it could be that they have some reasons and we're waiting to see this unfold.
Okay, so just before this question, you talked about other corporations trying to be involved. So what role do you think these corporations play in shaping the blue economy agenda?
Well, generally speaking, the way things are moving in the world today, we do know that regulation is far behind the speed of exploitation, especially the speed of development of new technologies. Because one of the principles about technology, or one of the principles of blue economy, is innovation. Innovation, and that means building bring up new technologies that can aid exploitation of our water bodies, particularly of the ocean. So if that is the case, and if we understand that technology is far ahead of regulation, a lot of what is going on in the world today is unregulated. For example, geoengineering, which is trying to take control of the global climate, or more or less grabbing the global thermostat. So when this is happening, artificial intelligence is not sufficiently regulated. So things, but the speculators are driving change in many areas. And I think that the ones who are also driving change in the direction of blue economy. We've heard a lot about greenwashing. Now it's going to be blue washing.
Blue washing. You've heard how our dependence on this fragile ocean and its activities will cost us more than we bargain for. But we'll go on a short break, and when we return, we will learn more how public education and awareness with the right policies can serve as a mitigating factor. Stay tuned.
Are you looking for a conducive and serene environment to carry out your research works and need the right content to be at your best? Are you a lover of academics and intellectual books? Do you seek proper works of research for knowledge enhancement? Or you want a place to read at your leisure? The Home Health Library and Resource Center is the right place to be. With our well-arranged and fully stocked bookshelves, searching for your preferred genres and authors is made much easier than you could ever imagine. With our well-experienced librarians and guides, you've got a reading and research pleasure to catch up with. At Home Health Library and Resource Center, Benin City, Nigeria, it is simply an unforgettable experience.
Welcome back. We've been discussing the blue economy concept, and you've been listening to Dr. Nnimmo Bassey, a renowned environmentalist. And before we went on the break, we were talking about the impact of the blue economy. So let's know how the blue economy will impact coastal communities.
In addressing how the blue economy will impact fishers and coastal communities, we're asking the question, how inclusive will the blue economy be? One of the principles of blue economy is inclusive growth. And we do know that this is not something that is easy to come by. Poor communities are easily overlooked. Fisher folks are overlooked. They hardly have any support from the system to support their economic activities. And these are the people who are providing a whole chunk of the basic nutrition that our people need, and they don't have the support. So far we've not seen a situation where economic activities in the ocean, in coastal areas, these activities, we're not in a situation where these activities are really supporting the fisher folks and the coastal communities. All the coastal communities are getting is pollution, deforestation, and then the blame is put on these local communities, which is a very sad thing. When we talk about, for example, mangrove deforestation, people are saying, well, the people are using mangrove for firewood or for building construction. But communities who depend on coastal resources have learned over the years to live in a way. They use these resources in a sustainable manner by managing them by themselves. The same thing in the ordinary rainforest. The communities who depend on rainforests are very good managers of the forest. They know when to go in, when to come out. They know what to take and what not to take. They know what trees to fell at what time of the year, and they know how to preserve because their life depends on that resource. So if blue economy is going to be beneficial to our coastal communities of fisher folk, they must be on the table making decisions when things are being discussed, not just policy being placed upon them. Right now, only 8% of the ocean is protected.
Eight.
8%, yes. I mean, there's a move by the Convention on Biodiversity to ensure that 30% of the ocean water bodies and land-based land areas are protected. That in itself is a big challenge, because if you want to take 1/3 of water bodies for protection, then somebody's going to have the wrong end of the stick. Are the people involved? Were the people part of this decision? Are they part of the negotiation? Do they know whose land or whose ocean or whose rivers or whose creeks will be taken up? Then most likely they're not involved in this. And so, as far as the people are not included in the negotiations and the discussions, we can be sure that they're going to come out losers at the end. So this is the challenge. If we look at fisheries, which is the most common usage of coastal bodies or of the ocean that we know of, we do know that activities in the ocean currently go on in the ocean pose serious human rights risks for fisher folks. For example, wherever you have an oil rig or oil platform in the ocean or oil installation in the ocean, there's a military cordon keeping people away from there. And some of these facilities are located where you have endemic fish species. And so fisher folks may not know where the limits are, and they're exposed to danger. And so this is because there isn't sufficient negotiations. Even for activities, industrial activities go on land, environmental impact assessments are taken, are just very casual. We don't find a situation where corporations and those who are carrying out activities in our environment are serious about their environmental impact assessment. And so we're having all these risks, and honestly speaking, unless something changes, people will hold the wrong end of the stick one more time.
So what do you think should be the real components for ocean governance?
Well, the components of ocean governance, that's number one, must be inclusive. You have to discuss with all those who are dependent on the ocean, and invariably everybody is dependent on the ocean, but there are those who are living on the coastlines. There are those who are living on islands. They have to be at the center of the negotiation and the decision making. If they are not part of decision making, then of course the governance will be of no use. So they will be anti-people and anti-environment. And secondly, the principles of governance in the blue economy must also recognize the ocean as having its own right, not to maintain these cycles. The ocean maintains and helps also maintain our weather and climatic patterns. The ocean currents affect where we're going to have rain, where we're going to have so many other things. When we increase acidification of the ocean, it affects fisheries, affects coastal communities, affects everything. When you have undue sea level rise, that's a big problem. So humans have an obligation to ensure that the ocean itself maintains its own natural cycles, which we depend on. And it's important to also state here that we have only one ocean. Everyone may say Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean. It's one ocean. Because there's no boundaries between these oceans. We don't have partitions. It's all one flow around the planet. And in Africa, we should be very conscious and very concerned, because the hotter the ocean, the harsher the floods and the cyclones, especially on the eastern coast of South Africa, Mozambique, and the rest. And so we have every reason to worry about how the ocean and coastal areas are governed.
So let's take a clue from other continents. What do you think they do differently that we can learn here in Africa?
I wouldn't say that. I don't think they do anything differently, because it is the same people who are challenging the ecosystems are the ones operating around the world. I do know the only difference would be that if you look at what happened in the Gulf of Guinea, during the Gulf of Guinea oil spill, in water that was about 1.5 kilometers deep, the government of the United States ensured that the polluting companies stopped the oil spill. But in Nigeria, we're doing things differently. In Ororo 1 oil well, for example, off the coast of Ondo State, the water at that point is just 10 meters deep. In the Gulf of Guinea, it was 1.5 kilometers deep. Here, it's just 10 meters deep. And the fire has been going on for more than 4 years. And this is not just fire, it's also spilling. So we have millions of liters of barrels of crude oil spill into the ocean into our water bodies in Nigeria, on our coastline. And this is sometimes they are left to disperse, or dispersants are used to either push them to the bottom of the ocean or disperse them and cause them to evaporate. But we're doing things very much differently if you talk about how we deal with pollution in our water bodies. Otherwise, it's the same speculators and exploiters who are creating havoc, who are looking for permits for deep sea mining around the world, in the Pacific Ocean, all over the place. So we have the usual culprits, and they should be held to account and should be regulated by involving those whose lives depend directly on the resources of the ocean and coastal environments.
You really have heard the need why we should protect our ocean. But before we go, do you have any final thoughts that you would want to share with us?
I'm happy you said final word for today and for Kike Digest.
Yes.
Yeah. The first thing I would like to reiterate is that it is very wrong for us, for people or governments or corporations to view the ocean as an infinite space, as if it's limitless. The ocean has a limit. And when anything has a limit, means we have to be careful how we utilize or how we interact with that resource. Secondly, we have to understand that we know that some harms have already been committed on the ocean and against coastal communities. So we need to remediate, restore, and also make sure there's reparation for those who have been harmed. And finally, it's important also to ensure that if we're talking about conserving any part of the ocean or coastal aquatic environment, communities must be at the center of the decision of the conservation. In other words, we need to have community managed protected areas, not areas protected or managed by governments who are not close to the people and who don't even know what the people are going through. And the second finally, or the finally, one other thing is that without really accusing those who don't live close to water bodies, it's important to get close to the ocean and spend some time, be embedded in communities to understand really how deep the connection to ocean is. That the ocean is not a space for economic exploitation. Of course, it supports our economic activities, but the ocean is a cultural space, it's a spiritual space, it's a space of life, it's a space that gives birth to stories about civilizations and about living. And we need to be more careful the way we relate with our oceans, because we protect the ocean will also protect us.
And so we've come to the end of today's episode, and you would agree with me that it's been exceptional listening to Dr. Nnimmo Bassey educate us on the need to preserve other beings around us and to see the ocean as part of us. We've been speaking with Dr. Nnimmo Bassey, who is the Executive Director of HOMEF, an ecological think tank. Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure.
Please join us in our next episode as we discuss other environmental issues. Remember to visit our website, www.homef.org, and follow us on all social media platforms on Echo HOMEF. I remain your host, Kome Odomo.